Welcome to the Transformation Perspective. I'm your host, Harper, she, her, hers pronouns. This is season two, all about mental health. And this is episode three, coping strategies, part one. I wanted to bring you some strategies, skill sets before I really start diving into the heavy topics to start talking about, and hopefully maybe having some guest hosts that want to come on and talk about some kind of mental health topics or personal experiences. I already talked about one of my personal experiences, but I have four coping strategies for this part one to help you through a mental health challenge you might be experiencing. It could be simply as an anxiety of like a panic attack, freaking out about your final exams. I know campuses, those are coming up this week, or if not next week. Maybe it's talking about some kind of issue with your partner and you just need to be grounded somehow. Whatever, mind, the possibilities are endless. So, with that, let's dive into the very first coping strategy to try to regulate yourself back in. It's basically changing the environment, changing your stimulation. So here we go. First one I got for you, my note card. Ground myself. Okay. So this is really key. You might feel like you're spiraling, ruminating, your heart rate is starting to go up, and you have tightness in the chest, tightness in the shoulders. Maybe your breathing is getting really shallow or really deep, whatever it might be. You might be feeling physical symptoms, what are in the situation you're going through. So the first one I got here is grounding myself. The technique is counting backwards by sevens from 100. You're like, whoa, Harper, I'm not a math whiz. That's the skill here for counting backwards. It's trying to switch your brain from thinking about whatever you've been thinking about, whatever you've been ruminating about, to change that moment, to change the stimulation in your brain. Basically, it's like trying to alter your state of consciousness without doing like recreational drugs or alcohol or caffeine or whatever it might be. It's a simple way to alter your state of consciousness and like thinking. So think about my example here is like a kid falls in the house because they're playing with their siblings and they hurt their knee and they need a band-aid and then they need another band-aid and another band-aid. It's like, well, how big is this scrape? And as a parent, it's not there. Um, but if you get them to think about something else, like, do I need to get my tools and like perform surgery on you? Oh, no. Well, then you wouldn't have to worry about that hurting no more. I could just cut that leg off. And all of a sudden they feel okay. It's because they started thinking about something else. And that's the important thing about this grounding. So counting backwards by sevens from 100. So 193, 86, 79. It's challenging. I'm even thinking about it, right? So you go 72. You're like, 65. And this is the point of it. You're thinking so hard. You could try to cite the ABCs backwards. That's another grounding technique where it really shifts your focus onto something strenuous. Maybe your brain works more mathematical and you can just rattle off mathematical facts. I do this with my own two children, is a coping strategy to ground them when they are struggling to regulate back in an emotional situation. I just start rattling math facts off for them. So that is a strategy. It's just to get your brain to start thinking about something else. If you're around a support group, your friends or something like that, and they see you're starting to spiral or getting out of control or a panic attack, the best thing for them to do is start asking you some random questions. It could just simply as favorite flavor of ice cream, favorite topping on an ice cream, you know, uh, things like that, just to start rattling things off. It's a great grounding technique. It doesn't take long. It's a nice way to regulate yourself. Okay. Next one that I've got is communicate when I need to be grounded. Oh my goodness, this is so important. All right. A lot of times people tend to not want to communicate. We feel like we shouldn't, right? Maybe that selfishness that would kick in and say, well, I shouldn't take a moment. I shouldn't take a time out and say, hey, I need 5 minutes. But that is so key to communicate when you need to be grounded. This is a skill set I do with my kids. Heck, I do this skill set with my students as well. That, hey, it's like, time out. You're overwhelming me. I need a minute, right? Or I need 2 minutes. Just give me a chance to think. I need silence. I'm going to go step in the hallway, or I'm going to go to my room. I'm going to put my earbuds on. Whatever it is, your grounding technique to regulate that overstimulation. I'm sure a lot of us can relate. Being overstimulated, I'm being overwhelmed. Maybe it's social settings. You can't handle being out in large crowds. That is perfectly valid. Find a way to communicate, hey, I need 5 minutes or I need 2 minutes to ground myself. And that is perfectly fine. That is 100% valid to do because you're human. We all have emotions. Our chemicals are just running through our bodies. Our cells are functioning and firing, and nervous system, brain chemistry, everything like that. And it just gets hyper alert. You got to think of this analogy. It's like you have your pot boiling, right? And all of a sudden you get in a situation that starts, you're like, someone just turned it to high, and my pot all of a sudden is boiling. You need to take a moment to ground yourself. Say, I need to turn down the stove and re regulate. And that is so important. And it does take practice. It takes a conscious effort to realize, well, I shouldn't take time for myself. And there's that should. We shouldn't be doing that, right? You should validate, like, hey, I'm struggling in this moment. It is perfectly fine for me to take 2 minutes out of this day. Doesn't matter if it's what job you're in. You are human. You have emotions. You have feelings. You're not a robot. If you're in a place of employment and you're feeling overwhelmed, it's okay to take a moment, right? That's important. Communicate like, look, I need 5 minutes. I need to just re regulate myself, right? Grounding yourself gets you to focus on the task at hand, whatever it might be. It could be, like I said, final exam if you're a college student coming up. Anything big, you just need to ground yourself in that moment. The next one I've got here is work with. Let me start again. My goodness. Work with what I have, not what I want. A lot of times we get wrapped up in our wants versus the basic needs that we have. Basic needs would be like food, water, shelter, basic necessity things that I've got. Work with the tools that you've got in front of you. And you're like, wait a minute, Harbor, I might not have anything in front of me. I don't know where to begin. And that is okay. Work with what the situation you have. It could be as simply as reaching out to a friend. Well, what happens if they don't respond right? That's okay. Remember, they have their own lives too. Give them grace, give them time to respond to that situation. So work with what you do have in that situation. All right. Your dishes are mounting. Oh my God, I can't do this. I just can't do that. Dishes are mounting. Laundry's mounting. I can't. Okay. Work with what you got. What could you do in that situation? You could pick up your dish soap and wash a mug for your coffee in the morning. That is it. Done. I have my coffee. Whatever it might be, fold one piece of clothing, put one load of laundry in, rewash the laundry, rewash the dishes in the dishwasher multiple times. Doesn't matter. If you're watching on social media, full episode found on YouTube. Thanks for watching. So anyway, back to it here. Working with what you've got, that is so key and critical. to understand, but sometimes it gets just lost. A simple thing gets lost in translation of what it might be. Um, the acronym KISS, keep it simple, stupid, um, kind of phrase like that. And like, brush my teeth. Okay, there you go. Work with what I have, not what I want. Right. And it's simply as, it is a need, right? You don't really want your teeth to go get bad and stuff like that. Um, and it's okay. Like, oh man, I should work on my nutrition. My mental health is not doing so good. I'm guilty of that right now. In the past month, like I've been in and out of the hospital, focusing on my mental health. My nutrition has declined. So I'm working with what I've got, not what I want. I know I want to eat healthier, but in this moment, the important thing is for me to just eat. I need some kind of fuel to just get me through the day. And yeah, there are periods in my mental health right now. I was like, I don't want to eat. I just don't feel like it. And I have to remind myself, you know what? I need to. Because otherwise I might get a headache because my blood sugar might be too low or whatever it might be. So that is so key is to work with what you do have. If it's a support group, reach out to your friends. If it's your grounding skills that you've got, use those. Right. I haven't talked about a lot of the things, but I've mentioned in previous episodes, like the tip one is changing the temperature. So between hot and cold, when you know you need it, if you're feeling really, really tense, is that the time I should use cold, like an ice pack, or should I use a heating pack or like take a hot bath or a hot shower? Or do I need a cold shower to like re-regulate? Do I need to step outside in the winter? Work with what you do have the tools. It's amazing what you can find around the house to really ultimately distract you. Okay. I know maybe that one that wasn't explained the best. Um, Another metaphoric aspect behind work with what you have, not what you want. Maybe it's the outcome. Like, I need to fix this. Okay. Maybe you're a fixer. Work with what you do have and work on today. Work on this moment. It might feel like you're in a freaking mountain and you're like, I can't get to here because I'm way down here, right? So work with what you got. You might have a garden shovel, right? And you're just like, how do I dig my way to the top? It's okay. You'll get there. Or maybe here's another one. You're in a dark tunnel and you're like, this is just dark. I feel dark constantly. And maybe you get out of it and then you go back, and then you can come out of it, you go back, and eventually you realize, oh, I packed a flashlight. And that flashlight is what you can work with to guide yourself through. It might not be the best flashlight. The batteries might be dying. All right. If anyone from group is watching, all right, the reference I'm asking is take a battery and you recharge yourself. And that's okay. Going in for another healing aspect to recharge your batteries because your flashlight's going dim in the dark. And all of a sudden you recharge those batteries and that flashlight's a lot brighter. Work with what you've got. Um, Not necessarily want. I want to get to the top of the mountain. You'll get there. Right. But sometimes that's the hard thing to realize. Like, eventually you start chipping away at that mountain piece by piece, rock by rock, pebble by pebble. And next thing you know, you're halfway up. You've dug your way halfway up and you keep going. Work with what you have and not what you want is a tough one, but I know you can do it. Right. I know you can do it. That is so key. The last one, this is so critical. This is my favorite one. Smile and laugh. This is a coping skill. You're thinking, well, smile at, I don't feel like smiling. I feel like I'm sad. I feel like I'm depressed. I feel anxious. There's not a moment to smile about anything. There's that negative aspect. And your feelings in those moments are 100% valid. I'm not dismissing those. But it's amazing what a smile can do for you. It's amazing what a little laugh can do for you. Maybe it's just something funny, you know, being sad and down and whatnot. I get reminded about things in my house constantly about my children when they're not around, and I laugh and I feel better, right? And just smiling. My students always are like, Miss, why are you smiling so much? What are you so happy about? I'm just happy to be alive. But see, that's when they start asking, and then they smile back. It's the endorphins that start to kick in by you smiling. And it kind of brightens your day, brightens your mood. Also, it takes more muscles to smile in your face. That means you burn more calories when you actually do smile. And you feel a little less tense. So, smiling, laughing at what you have in front of you, not what you want, right? I want $1 million. Okay, yeah, we all want some kind of thing like that. But smiling at what you have is so key. Smiling at the moment that you get a chance to ground yourself and laugh and think, oh my God, I needed that moment. I needed that. Or laughing that you can't count back from 100 by sevens. Like, I can't do this. It's not that. It's the funny, laughing, and smiling moments that really help set the tone and mood. And maybe you're like, well, I haven't laughed and smiled and I can't remember the last time. And that's okay. You're not in that moment, you're not in that space, but in the day, if you find just a moment to just crack a smile, it changes your mood. Or if you're watching this and you know someone who is struggling, or I shouldn't say struggling, has mental health challenges in their life right now, smile. Try to laugh, because I have an amazing friend who brings a lot of humor to the workplace and when we hang out. Heck, even in this moment, like uh, while being in the hospital, bringing humor. Yeah, it caused more pain for me to laugh, but needed that at the moment. I'm sure maybe a lot of us have that friend who's going to crack the jokes and make us laugh. And if you are that person for your friends, reach out to them. That is so key, because mental health has so many negative stigmas, so many negative connotations that we don't want to talk about it. But there are so many positives that can come from that progress, from that growth. A simple smile and a laugh can start to generate and grow that seed. Why did I put it on a yellow card? Because it reminds me of the sunshine, right? Bright, sunshiny kind of thing, because it starts the growth process. If it's anything else that you need to be communicated when you're grounded, sometimes it's a smile and a laugh, and it generates that new growth in you. That's the beauty of it. And working with what you have and not what you want puts you in a new perspective of like, okay, it's almost like that gratefulness. Like, I'm grateful for, wow, I'm alive. I'm grateful for having a roof over my head. Oh, I don't have a job right now. Yeah, this is true. Work with what you can do. You can go to the library if you don't have a computer at home and start applying for jobs. You can ask for support to do that, right? And a simple like grounding technique of counting backwards, even if you're not a math whiz, right? can light up a smile for your own face because you struggle with just counting backwards from 100 by sevens. And that's all okay. We need to shift the perspective. And these coping strategies is all about shifting the mindset, being mindful of you, having mindfulness. That is the key that you've got. We need a better narrative out in the United States, around the world, about mental health. It's not a negative stigma, but it's everywhere you turn. Every angle is all about the negatives. Let's use a coping strategy to ground the negative stigma and negative comments. So basically using our skills to counteract what's actually happening out there, right? Let's turn the narrative to a positive, right? There are skills out there. Smile. Right? There are skills out there for you. And yes, maybe I fully understand. Like, I lost my therapist because of insurance. Yeah, US system for healthcare sucks when it comes to insurance. I am a victim of that as well, that had a great therapist and lost because of insurance cases. Like, oh, your insurance is denying you the ability to continue seeing this therapist. Great. That's just great. Or you can't afford it, or you don't have insurance. And these are part of the motivations as to why I want to do season 2 for mental health. Because if you do have a phone, you do have the internet, you do have access to my YouTube channel, the skills that I can provide for you, you need a recharging moment for your batteries, right? This is what I'm here for. I want to have a positive awareness for mental health going forward. So that's why I want to start off with something light, all right? Before we really start diving into the really, really heavy topics, because we're going to need smiling in that moment. We're going to need to ground when we're talking about heavy stuff. We're going to have to work with what we have and not what we want. And we're going to definitely need to communicate, like, I need a break. And that is okay, because we're all in it together as a support group, but it's ultimately your journey. And remember that it's your journey in your mental health. You can take it as fast or as slow as you want. My biggest analogy is all about plants. Some seeds grow faster than others, and some seeds grow slower than others. From my gardening technique, carrots can take almost 3 weeks to sprout, sometimes 4, depending on the weather, right? And that's okay. Then you have some plants like a pea can sprout in like 3-4 days. You just got to find your seed. What kind of seed are you? And that's 100% okay. So, thanks for watching. Hopefully, the coping skills part 1 has helped you. Like it, subscribe it, share it out, try out these techniques. Until next time, I'm Harper, and this has been the Transformation Perspective.